What's up, my loves and fellow creatives? I'm back again for another 10-minute tease tutorial, and this one is inspired by Living Single, and it has this kind of 90s vibe to it. Also has really bright colors that you can change out and make whatever colorway that you choose, and you have the option to choose the file that'll have the cartoon version, or you can opt to not do the cartoon version and you'll be able to still change out the photos just the same. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I typically do is change out the photo. So the way that I find my photo is I'm going to right click, and I see that there is a folder called photo, but then also there's something that I'm also touching on within that folder, and this says Living Single Cartoon. I'm going to guess that's what it is, and lo and behold, it will take you exactly to that layer in the layers panel. So I want you to be aware of that, so then that way you're just not blindly going through the layers panel, because some of these templates can be a little complicated as far as how many layers there are. So in this case, we found what we want to replace, and we'll just do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate everything so that I have the cartoon version, and then I'm going to have a whole nother version for you all. So that's version 1, and then I'm going to duplicate this just for myself so that I can show you all an alternate version of this. All right, so within this group, like I said, I'm going to find that image and we're going to replace it. So if you actively have that image selected, it's much easier to bring in your alternate image. And for this, I'm going to use remove BG, and let's see what photo we're going to use for this one. Let's go back to, I have some photos that you all submitted, and if you ever want to submit photos, then make sure that you're in the Innate Creatives group, because that's where I pick the photos from. When I make a post and I ask you all to drop photos to see who wants the template for free, and this one did beautifully, even cut out the hair there, which can be a little difficult, very difficult, I'm not going to say little, in Photoshop. Excuse me. Get a little sip of my tea over here. All right, so let's go ahead and download that image. And I can pull it right from my browser, drag and drop it right onto my artboard. And I'm going to resize it before I bring it in. Excuse me, loves. Once I get it to the size that I want, I'm going to hit enter here, and it locks in that size. Now, what I have going on here is the photo, the cartoon version is, it has its own layer mask around it, and that's how I fade off those edges. We're going to do the exact same thing to this new photo. As a matter of fact, I'll leave it in there, and I am going to delete the layer mask that was on the Living Single image. I'll take that one out because I don't need it anymore. And then I'm going to add a layer mask down here. You see what I'm hovering over? It says add layer mask, and you'll notice that it's going to add this white mask here. Now the secret to layer mask is that white is going to reveal and black is going to conceal. So I'm going to make sure that I choose my brush here, choose a black as my foreground color, and I don't even like to click on this. I like to set my default, and if you notice, default sets it to white and black, and then I just reverse it to bring black to the foreground. That way I insist that I have the proper black, which is, if you look at it, all zeros down here. Okay, and it looks like my brush is a little big. The brush that I typically select is going to be a soft brush here. And even though it's a soft brush, you can choose your size of the brush. So right now, I'm going to choose maybe 600 as my brush size. And it made it a little bit smaller. And then what I'm doing is I'm painting on the layer mask. So you see how I'm painting black onto this white layer? And what it's allowing me to do It just removes some of the image there. But it's not deleting any real pixels. It's just hiding those pixels. And to me, this makes for a better transition. It makes for a more believable transition when you're bringing images into an all-over design, or any design for that matter. You know me, I don't like to see those hard edges. So that just cleaned up those edges there. We still have a super beautiful photo right here. And I can also, this looks like they're wearing lavender in the image. So we can choose to do a different colorway. We can choose to incorporate the lavender, the pastel colors. So let's see, who is this? Kendra. And Kendra, if you happen to be in the chat today, let me know what colors you might want to see. All right, now I'm going to show this basically taking the original images. It's kind of like the primary colors. We can do that colorway, and I can show you how to change it to that colorway, or we can do something totally different. Let's do the pastels. That'll be totally unexpected. So this image is just here for reference, just to pick colors from and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and change out the colors. Anything that you see that you want to change, my suggestion is right click on what you want to change. Let's say I want to change the colors of these swirlies here. And they kind of resemble roses to me. That's why I liked it. So I'm going to right click and we'll see whatever we're clicking on. So it's either color 4. And you'll see down here that each of these layers are labeled and they have a color overlay. So the easy part is my main color, I think it's probably going to be that, we're going to make it like a pastel purple. So I'm going to double click on the color overlay. And I can go to this hot pink here, which is what we're presently using. And I can pick a color from the image. And you see it did make it this pastel kind of color, but it's not quite what we want it to be. So we're going to make it what we want it to be. I want it to be a really nice kind of pastel purple. And then I may even paint the color of the dress to kind of pull that purple out a little bit. All right, so we have our purple there. And then the next color is this funky kind of turquoise here. So let's double click on the color overlay there. It'll take it to our color overlay effects. And for this one, let's just say we're going to keep it pastel. So I might take the same type of hue and just bring it over and make a little bit lighter version of it. So I'm basically making a pastel version of this color palette. And let's see, for color number 5, I'm going to double click on the color overlay there. And for this one, maybe we want a little silver. I'm calling it silver, but it's just basically a light gray here. Maybe even white. The white is popping out pretty good too. I'm going to give it a little bit of tint to it. So it's not such a bright white. It's a little tiny bit silver. Okay, so I have that, and I'm going to keep the black because the black to me just really grounds all the other colors. So if you do want to change the black, you can come here to the color overlay for the black, and you can change it out just the same. Whatever color you might want. Let's say you basically want to do a darker version of the purple there. You have that option too. Like I said, I'm a type of person where I always have to have some form of neutral in my design just to kind of anchor it. So I like a lot of blacks, whites, and grays, and then pops of color. So I'm going to keep the black there, just showing you what you can do if you want that option. And then for this pink here, I'm going to right click and it says jagged bottom. I'm going to go to the jagged bottom. And I'm going to double click on the color overlay. Right now it's got that hot pink. I'm going to hover over my artboard and it's going to allow me to use my artboard as a color palette. So I'm picking that same purple from right there in one of those roses. And now I can hit OK. And instantly I have changed that colorway. Now the only other thing there is to do is to change this gradient here. So I'm going to right click on the word world and it takes me to my world in my layer palette here. Double click on FX and I'll go to my gradient overlay, and instead of overwriting this, I'm going to duplicate it. So if I hit this plus sign here, now I have two gradient overlays, but the top one I'm going to change out and the bottom one I'm going to leave there just in case I need to reference that later. So let's click on that gradient, and each of these color stops, I'm going to replace those colors. So for color number 1, I'm going to replace with that lighter version of the teal there, more like a sea glass kind of color. And then I'm going to replace the pink. Now you can double click on a color stop, or if you just happen to click on it once, you can click on the swatch here and change it out. It does the exact same thing. All right, so I'm going to choose the purple here. And then where the yellow was, I think I chose gray before. So let's just pick that light gray. All right, so now that I have the gradient that I want, and I may switch this up, I may pull this gray in the middle. And let my color kind of fade from there. I think I like that better. Now I can save this as a new color swatch. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here, hit new, and lo and behold, that gradient is going to be available for me to use somewhere else. So I can hit OK here. I'm going to right click on the word girls. And by the way, this is a font from innatelab.com. This is called Living 90s, okay? So it's a font available for purchase on innatelab.com. Very affordable font, but it is fully editable. So you can type it, you can type the symbols, uppercase, lowercase, etc. Well, for this one, the uppercase and lowercase I think are the same. All right, so back to changing this colorway, we're just going to double click on the effects. I'll go to gradient overlay. I'm going to duplicate the overlay again because I want to keep that bright colored one. I'm going to go to my gradient here, and now if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I'll see the one that I already created. There we go, and voila, the design is done, believe it or not. Okay, so another 10-minute template tutorial challenge. And usually I'm able to get it done in less than 10 minutes. It just depends on if I'm explaining things or not. All right, so now at this point in time, I'm going to, let me take any questions while it's all over. And then the next step that I'm going to show you all how to do is how to break it down into a 13 by 19 design. So we switched out the photo. We switched out the colors. If you want to change out the words, you just simply, even if you had the move tool selected, you just double click where you see text. Okay, that's all you do, just type over it. Yes, absolutely, you can put more than one picture in here. As a matter of fact, you can bring in photos and do a collage. However you want to do it, you just basically drag and drop them on in. Good question. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and see how this would be visualized as a 13 by 19 design, how we would achieve that. So I'm going to save what we have so far. All right, and you will notice that my newer files for the all over design. So if you happen to purchase an all over, you should have a mask in it. And this is for the newer ones only. I've started to incorporate these. So I'm going to turn this mask on by clicking on the X here. And this just kind of gives me an idea of what's going to be included in my graphic and how I might need to change anything. So for right now, I'm going to disable the layer mask. I'm going to finish saving. I don't know if it just saved. And before I do anything to turn it into a 13 by 19, the first thing we want to do is hit save as, so we can save it as a different version. And all I'm going to do is remove the all over word from the front. Let's save that. And now I'm no longer messing with my all over version. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and close out my background folder and just activate this 13 by 19 mask here. And I'm going to take this same mask and I'm going to put it on these little squigglies that I have in the background. And because now this is going to be a 13 by 19, I'm probably not going to see this little zigzag or the jagged edge here as I have it put. So I'm going to take this, Control T, and change my little jagged edge area. If I want it to appear, I'm going to have to make it so that it's visible in this 13 by 19 area. And I'm going to go ahead and group that as well. And for the jagged edge group, I'm going to take this same layer mask. I'm going to alt click and drag it up here to the jagged edge group. Now this is if you're manually converting it. If you purchase the 13 by 19 version, this is already going to be done for you. And automatically, if we turn off the layers for the all over version, so I'm going to unlock these. That's the only way to delete them, is to unlock them. And now I get to see what this design looks like. It's a 13 by 19 ready to print. And it looks like my little jagged edge here is kind of clipping a little bit towards the end. So I'm going to move that. Not the whole thing, but just the jagged edge bottom. And make sure that it gives me a clean edge right here. I don't want to see that hard line. All right. So that's it. Now another thing, if you are doing this and let's say you're reducing this down to 13 by 19 and you kind of don't see your abstract shapes anymore. You want to see a little bit more of those abstract shapes, then I'm going to go into the background and choose, and I can just choose one of these because I have them all linked. I'm going to do Control T and it's going to transform. So what you see happening here is I'm reducing the size of this background image. And now you get to see a little bit more of it in the background of the photo here. And that's just so that you capture a little more of that background. It's not necessary. It actually looked fine the way it was blown up, but I'm just giving you an idea that sometimes when you make something 13 by 19 from the all over version, you're going to have to do a little bit of modification. Now let's see, that should have changed everything in my group here. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing for the, basically going to duplicate this process for the cartoon version because I'm going to need that for whoever purchases the cartoon version. So I'm just alt clicking and dragging my mask layer. So it's going to mask the image on this part, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the jagged edge bottom. Control T and transform that. And maybe you don't even want the jagged edge bottom, because that looks pretty cool too without the little triangles at the bottom. But that's the good thing about having the options for these layers, is that you can add and remove things and make it your own. Excuse me. Hey, Kendra. Yes, you're welcome, love. It's a beautiful photo. So make sure you contact Erica when I get the template posted, so that you can get that template for the free ski. Right? Yes, I will be doing the Field of Horses template. As a matter of fact, that's why I have it open. I'm trying to catch up on these template tutorials for you all. All right. So once again, we're going to group that and name it, what did we say? Jagged Edge Group. And then we're going to take this layer mask. I'm holding down Alt. I'm going to click and drag it so it makes a copy of that mask. And I like my text to kind of pop out of my mask a little bit. So I don't mask my text. I let it be what I need it to be. But it just cleanly comes and pops on the outside here. It just gives it a little extra cool effect there. All right. So that's it for, at least for rearranging for the 13 by 19 version of it. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get ready to crop it and resize it. Okay, so this is the final step if you're going from an all over to 13 by 19. And as long as you all remind me, I will make that a part of every tutorial. All right, so next what I'm going to do, make sure everything is good and clean in there on each of these layers. Everything looks good. That really looks pretty. I really like that. And here, I'm going to fade off a little bit more at the bottom here, because I can see on my photo that I have a little bit of a hard line there. And y'all know how I feel about those hard lines. So I'm going to go to my layer mask, grab my paintbrush. I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller this time. And as you can see, I'm painting on the layer mask, not deleting any pixels. So if I ever need to bring something back, I would choose white. If I wanted to get rid of it or to hide it, I'm going to choose black. So white reveals and black conceals. And let's see here. Let's do Control T, make the photo a little bit bigger. So then that way our image kind of melts into the text there. And if you want to get even fancier, you can copy the layer style. Let's copy it from the cartoon. Let me find it. And this song is literally like stuck in my head. All right, so this is the photo group. And here, I'm going to copy the layer style from the cartoon. And all it did was place like a white outline around it. Now we're going to see if that's going to work for this image. So all I'm going to do is right click on the name of the layer and hit paste layer style. And it kind of gives me this kind of cartoon version of it. But I don't like, in order to make this kind of melt into the image here, I'm going to have to put a fade on the photo group. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm adding a layer mask to the whole group. Then I'm going to increase the size of this soft brush here. And then I would just kind of brush it off. If I wanted to have that kind of, that pop art appeal to it. And the reason why that happens is because I'm doing a layer effect to the photo. So it has all of this outline and everything down here. But if I want to hide that, then of course I can still have that little pop art appeal to it, but I have to create a layer mask of that effect, which is why I have to create a whole nother, as a matter of fact, let me see if this would have been easier. I'm just going to take this one, this layer mask here, Alt, click and drag it up to the photo layer, and it did the same thing. Cut you out a little extra step there. So just do that. Alt, click and drag. So I'll undo that for a second to show you again. Real quick thing is to Alt, click and drag from the photo to the photo folder. And as a matter of fact, I could even delete the layer mask from the photo now and just turn on and off the effects from here. Okay? So of course it's not really a cartoon version, but it gives it that kind of pop art effect. And I showed you all several different ways to go to, what was it, lunapic.com. You all showed me like Cartoon Me and all kind of other apps that will take your photos and turn them into cartoonish images. All right, so I'm getting ready to crop this on down for y'all. Let's go ahead, and as a matter of fact, for the non-cartoon version, I think I like it without that, but I like the drop shadow. You see how just that drop shadow is popping up there? I do like the drop shadow. So y'all play with that. All right, so now we're gonna break it on down. We're gonna crop it. So we're using the crop tool here. And let's do, I'm gonna clear this because you may not have 13:19 as your ratio. So I'm gonna clear it, escape out of there, and we're gonna do this again. So once I hit the crop tool, if you don't have anything here, the ratio, I want you to, and even if you have anything there, just type over it, hit 13, and then the next one is 19. And this is going to give you a 13:19 ratio. We're going to take it down. And I'm just making sure that I don't crop off anything important and that I don't get too close to my edges here, because when it prints, it may need a little margin area and I don't want it to crop off any of your image. So that looks good there. I'm going to hit enter. And let me hit enter one more time to lock in the ratio there. And you don't see it now, but it's showing a progress bar on my other screen and just showing that it's doing the cropping process. And again, make sure that you have delete cropped pixels. Make sure that's turned off before you crop. And that's up here at the top. All right, so it's not quite a 13:19 yet. I'm going to make sure that it is by going to image, image size. And again, you can choose the jumbo size. We print the jumbo size prints. They're 18:26, so you could type in 18, or you can type in 26. So you probably want to type in 26, and it's going to be a little less than 18 inches wide. And this is going to give you the 18:26 jumbo size prints. If you're printing from your printer at home and you're able to do 13:19, then you put in 13, and it's going to make it fit within 13:19 dimensions. All right, so all I have to do is hit OK here. And it's just showing the progress that it's changing the image size. And now I officially have a 13:19. I'm going to Control 0 just to zoom in there. Everything looks good. And I'm just looking here, and it looks like some of my little squiggly isn't coming through over here. I want to make sure it does. Oh, it looks like when my squigglies are not to the appropriate mask here. So I'm going to delete that layer mask and I'm just going to replace it. There we go. And that probably happened when I just resized it just now. So if that's the case, if it did it for one, it probably did it for the other. So I'm just going to make sure. Nope, my layer masks are still the same. So these all look good and this is ready to go. So this is the 13 by 19 version of the cartoon version, and we have the 13 by 19 version of the photo version. Okay, so Carol asked if you want to duplicate a photo and flip it so that it's photo side by side. How do you do that? That's an excellent question, and it's as simple as exactly what you said to do. So if I right click on the photo, okay, and I right click on that in the layer, I can say duplicate layer. So I just duplicated it, right? It looks like there's no change because it's exactly behind the original. But if I go to Control T, which is to transform it, and then I right click, I can flip it horizontal. There we go. Hit enter, and that just locked in that transformation. So now we flipped it to the other side. And if this was a single photo, then yeah, you can do like the mirror look where it's looking like side by side. But because this is multiple people, you're not able to really see it side by side, but you can imagine that that's what you can do. As a matter of fact, you might even want to play with opacity images when you do that sort of thing, just to kind of get some idea of what you can do with these different effects. Photoshop, anything you can think of, anything you can imagine, you can create. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape out of that because I don't need that layer. But that's a great question of how you duplicate and flip. So you'll be able to watch this in the future. You're welcome, Carol. Let me go ahead and save what I'm working on. And let's see, what time is it? It is 7:54. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes to take your questions. And I will go ahead and set up the next live 10-minute tutorial. And let me show you what we're going to be working on. I have two different ones. So we have two different fields. One is the field of flowers for the remembrance shirt, and then the other one is for the unicorn / horse here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. Here we go. And they're a little bit different. What I've started doing, people have different applications for what they want to use it for. So I'm going to be, kind of taking requests to change it for you all so that you have a different version of the template that might be better suited for what you want to use it for. So that's what I'm doing right now. Let me go ahead and schedule this stream. And this one is going to be and copy that layer name. And what time is it? We'll say that this one will begin at 8:05. That way it'll give you all a few minutes to ask me questions. And you'll get to see, if you attend that live, you'll get to see who we chose for that one. So if you're not familiar with how I choose the models, aka your photos, your beautiful photos for these templates, is that I will usually post in the Innate Creatives group that hey, I've created this template. If you'd like for your image to be featured, then go ahead and drop a photo. So if you're not in the Innate Creatives group, go ahead and get into that group. It's a free group. We offer a lot of advice and show off and showcase the work that we're doing with the templates and what we're learning in Photoshop. So that's definitely the place to be. And then we also have the Academy where you can take live and pre-recorded courses and kind of learn at your own pace, learn with a little guidance if you want to do the interactive courses. You will have an instructor. In this case, it's me right now, but I am training people to become instructors as well. So pretty soon we'll be able to help one another. So Sharon asks if you want to do the jumbo size, do you crop to 18 by 26? Yes. Just make sure that the biggest ratio, which is usually the 26, you can choose the 18 by 26 and then later reduce it down to a 13 by 19. Usually if you choose a 13 by 19 size, you can always pull it up to an 18 by 26-ish. It usually ends up being somewhere like 26 by 17.7. And that 13 by 19 ratio still works for an 18 by 26 printout. The thing of it is, when you submit it as a jumbo print, you want to make sure that you submit it on an 18 by 26 canvas or artboard. That's a good question. All right, and I think we're all saved here. I'll make sure, save again. You can never save too many times. All right, and we just have a couple more minutes until the next live starts. So I'm going to go ahead and save where I am and close out of this stream. You all join me back in literally 2 minutes. I have another live stream set up. Hopefully you all can see it. Matter of fact, let me know if you can see it. If you see that other live stream, let me know so that I understand how this platform is working. YouTube is changing up how we upload and that sort of thing. So I want to make sure that I'm using this properly. All right. So I will be catching you all in just a moment on the new live stream, and we'll be doing the 10-minute template tutorial for the In a Field of Horses Be a Unicorn. Okay, which just makes for a good birthday, anything that you can think of. It doesn't even have to be an occasion. If you just think of like back to school shirts, like why not be able to make your own stuff? And most of these templates, they don't have to have photos in them if you don't want to. That's just my way of kind of appreciating you all, is to show off the photos. So it also helps you with showing that it's custom, because if they saw a character on a shirt, then they don't necessarily know that you made it. But if you show a photo on a shirt, then everybody's going to ask you, well, where did you get that from? Okay. So this is a great way of advertising for yourself when you're walking around too. Every time I'm walking around with a photo shirt on, someone asks me where I got it from. So that's a great way to stand out, especially amongst the folks who are only doing vinyl out there, only doing screen print. You can show with sublimation. I can do one shirt or I can do 1,000 shirts, and just make sure you charge accordingly. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to switch over and I'll meet y'all over in the new live in just 1 minute. Okay. All right, love. Just for now. Bye.